Welcome to my channel, Myschyff here, bringing you another video. Aventurine has finally returned to Honkai Star Rail. In this ultimate guide video, you'll find everything that you need to know about Aventurine. Aventurine is a limited 5-star imaginary preservation unit, mainly focusing on giving shields to his teammates while dealing decent AoE damage at the same time. And like me, he has a huge gambling problem. In this ultimate guide, we'll be going over his kit, relic stats, Eidolons, light cones, and team comps. Before pulling for Aventurine, we should understand what his kit does first. And as always, we're going to start off with the basic attack, straight bet. Aventurine's basic attack is nothing too fancy. However, unlike other units, his basic attack scales off his defense. But that isn't going to be the important part of his kit. Aventurine's skill, Cornerstone Deluxe, is going to be the bread and butter of his kit, providing allies with a fortified wager shield that blocks damage equal to 24% of Aventurine's defense, plus an extra 320 that lasts for 3 turns. Best part about this ability, when Fortified Wager is applied repeatedly, the shield can stack up to 200% of the current shield effect, meaning the more times you spam this, the harder it'll be to break through his defenses. This isn't going to make Aventurine an SP negative unit, as you can simply refresh his shield before it expires. Aventurine's ultimate, Roulette Shark, allows Aventurine to receive a random amount of blind bet points, then inflicts unnerved to a single target enemy for 3 turns, and deals imaginary damage based off Aventurine's defense to a single target enemy. When any ally hits an enemy unit with the unnerved effect, their crit damage is increased by 15%. Aventurine's talent, Short-Loaded Right, for any single ally with Fortified Wager, their effect res is increased by 50%, and when they get attacked, Aventurine receives 1 point of blind bet. Unlike his allies, if Aventurine has the Fortified Wager effect, he is able to resist any crowd control debuffs. However, the effect is for 1 enemy debuff and can be retriggered after 2 turns. Aventurine additionally gains 1 point of blind bet after getting attacked. Upon reaching 7 points of blind bet, Aventurine immediately consumes those 7 points to launch a 7-hit follow-up attack, each hit dealing imaginary damage equal to 25% of Aventurine's defense to a single random enemy unit. Aventurine's technique, the red or the black, grants one of the following effects. There is a chance to increase defense by 24%, there's a high chance for defense to increase by 36%, and there is a small chance to increase defense by 60%. By spamming this effect repeatedly, the effect with the highest buff value is retained and not replaced by the weaker ones. Aventurine's A2 trace leverage: for every 100 points of Aventurine's defense that exceeds 1600, his own crit value is increased by 2%, up to a maximum of 48% crit rate. Aventurine's A4 trace, a hot hand: upon entering battle, all allies are granted with a Fortified Wager shield. This shield effect is equal to 100% of the shield provided by Aventurine's skill. However, this effect lasts for 3 turns, so don't forget to use his skill to reapply his shield. Aventurine's A6 trace, bingo: whenever a teammate launches a follow-up attack, Aventurine gains 1 blind bet point that can be triggered up to 3 times. However, the trigger count resets at the start of Aventurine's turn. After Aventurine launches his talent's follow-up attack, all allies on the field gain a Fortified Wager shield that blocks 7% of Aventurine's defense, plus an additional 96. Any ally with the lowest shield effect on the field gains twice the effect's value. The shielding lasts for 3 turns. By leveling up Aventurine's minor traces, you receive a hefty 35% defense increase, 40% imaginary damage boost, and 10% effect res. Before we move on to his relics, these are the stats you want to aim for. I'm not going to be going over these, so take a quick look to get an understanding of how Aventurine is built. Aventurine is your dream man. Basically, Aventurine is able to mix and match with any of these sets, a perfect balance between damage and defense. However, if you truly want to maximize his shielding potency, then Knight of Purity Palace is the way to go. The set basically gives more defense and absorbs more damage, which is pretty much what you want from Aventurine. However, as I said, Aventurine is able to mix and match the Knight of Purity Palace with any other set, such as Hyperspace or the new set Relieved Ordeal for more speed. Hitting for those extra speed breakpoints allows for Aventurine to cycle through his turns faster, but if you somehow manage to get 134 through substats only while maintaining 4000 defense, then consider going for defense boots instead. Pioneer is also a great option, allowing Aventurine to deal 10% more damage against debuffed enemies. You could consider running this as a 2-piece set in an Akron team, since units such as Jiaosho and Silver Wolf are constantly applying debuffs to enemies. Surprisingly, whenever Aventurine inflicts unnerved to an enemy, this counts towards being a debuff too. So even outside of Akron teams, this set does surprisingly well. This set can even perform better at higher forms of investment for Aventurine. Scholar Lost in Erudition is another good set to pair up with Knight of Purity Palace, offering an extra 8% crit rate. However, if your Aventurine happens to have good substats with this set, then I recommend keeping this set equipped. You could go for Wastelander of Banditry, however, this is entirely up to whether or not your Aventurine has better stats and performance compared to other sets available to you. In terms of farming for this set, I think the other sets have much better domains for farming efficiency. For his planar sets, Broken Kill is going to be one of his best options. In case you don't know, Broken Kill increases the wearer's effect res by 10%. If they reach over 30% effect res, all allies gain 10% more crit damage. The reason why I say this set is one of his best and not just his best option, Aventurine is a preservation unit, meaning he's able to fit into comps where crit damage is not needed, like DOT. This means sets like Fleetless and Lashaka can actually be viable on him too when you're pairing him up with units that want to scale off attack. Other than that, other sets worth considering are Duran, since it is a follow-up attack set. What you get from this set is a hefty 25% crit damage boost when you have 5 merit stacks. To obtain the stack, allies need to launch a follow-up attack, and this can be stacked up to 5 times. Sao Soto is another good option worth going for. However, this and Duran pushes towards Aventurine being more of a damage dealer, lessening his role as a support in the team. Aventurine's Eidolons seem surprisingly good. By having Aventurine's E1, allies with a fortified shield effect get their crit damage increased by 20%. After casting Aventurine's ultimate, all allies are applied with the fortified shield effect equal to 100% of the one provided from the skill. For low spenders, hold your bets. Guess it? Because he's a gambler? Anyway, if you happen to pull for this Eidolon, then you could consider swapping out speed boots for defense boots, since you'll be gaining 100% shield value from Aventurine's skill, since every time you cast Aventurine's ultimate, you gain a shield. Aventurine's E2 trace is pretty solid, and in my opinion, his best stopping point if you're investing in him. When Aventurine launches a basic attack on a single target enemy, that target is going to have their all-type res reduced by 12% for 3 turns. 3 turns is quite a generous amount of turns. 3 turns is quite a generous amount, and the debuff can easily be refreshed, since you'll find yourself often basic attacking with Aventurine. Aventurine's E4 seems okay in my opinion, but not worth. Aventurine's defense is increased by 40% when his follow-up attack talent is triggered and lasts for 2 turns. The hits on his follow-up attack also get 3 additional hits, so in total, Aventurine is going to land 10 follow-up attack hits, pushing his DPS out onto the field even more. As I always say, pull to your heart's content if you really like the character that much. Aventurine's E6, however, is where he actually becomes a whole DPS. For every ally with a shield, Aventurine is going to deal 50% more damage, and this caps at 150%, which is pretty insane since you'll be consistently maintaining his shield uptime quite easily. Again, if you want to pull, go ahead, because this seems fantastic if you want him to be your main DPS. However, again, I'm going to remind you that Aventurine's E2, in my opinion, is quite worth the trade for low spenders. E1 is also fantastic if you're simply just aiming to improve your survivability and gain some extra crit damage. Okay, a quick rundown on his light cones. Obviously, Aventurine's signature light cone is going to be his best option. What you get is a massive 40% defense increase and 40% crit damage whenever you provide a shield to an ally. However, this effect will last for 2 turns. Also, whenever your follow-up attack hits an enemy, there's a 100% chance to increase the damage that target takes by 10% for 2 turns. This is pretty much a fantastic light cone to have, since Aventurine's light cone is going to increase the overall damage of your team. Between Aventurine's E1 and in his light cone, I think Aventurine's light cone seems pretty good if you want to aim for more team-wide damage. Aventurine's E1, however, seems pretty good if you're interested in improving his shield quality when clearing endgame content. Moment of Victory is actually a pretty good light cone option worth using too. You get a 24% defense increase and a 24% effect hit rate increase. Although the 24% effect hit rate is kind of unneeded since Aventurine's unnerved debuff is guaranteed. However, the light cone makes up for it by having a taunt effect. The taunt effect will actually contribute to generating Aventurine's ultimate faster, and when the wearers attack, their defense is increased by 24% until the end of the turn. Again, another fantastic light cone option worth considering to amplify his defenses even more. For free-to-play options, Day 1 of My New Life is great. At S5, the wearer's defense is increased by 24%. Damage res of all allies is increased by 12%, which is a pretty solid benefit too for damage reduction. Concept for 2 at S5 is another great addition, increasing the wearer's defense by 32%. Also, Aventurine's damage increases by 8% for every unit that has a shield. This light cone is pretty decent since it balances having more defense while dealing some extra personal damage. Landau's choice is okay, but this light cone pretty much sacrifices defense for 24% damage reduction at S5. This light cone could be good if you want to redirect enemy attacks to Aventurine. However, I personally think that Concept for 2 and Day 1 of My New Life are better choices. Trend of the Universal Market is also fantastic if you're considering throwing him into team comps such as DOT or Akron comps. Basically, this light cone specifically thrives on comps focusing on taking advantage on debuffs. At S5, the wearer's defense is increased by 32% too. When they're attacked, there's a 120% base chance to burn the enemy, and is going to deal DOT damage equal to 80% of the wearer's defense for 2 turns. Aventurine's signature light cone isn't necessary, so you can opt for light cones such as Moment of Victory or his other 4-star free-to-play options. However, I think Concept for 2 is his best free-to-play option as it's a perfect combination of damage and defense. If you want to focus on more defense and survivability, you can go for Day 1 of My New Life. Aventurine can pretty much fit into any team comp since he's a sustained unit. However, he's going to thrive most in follow-up attack comps. This could be with Fei Xiao or Dr. Ratio with Topaz and Robin. If you don't have the premium follow-up attack team, then you can always turn to his free-to-play option setups: Fei Xiao, Mose, Hunt March, and Bronya. These units together still make a fantastic team comp. Other follow-up attack DPS options worth mentioning are Yunli, Clara, and Ratio. These units are pretty much going to have a similar setup to Fei Xiao. He's also a fantastic sustain in Akron comps. However, I suggest pairing him with Trend of the Universal Market since it contributes to building up stacks on Akron. Aventurine is also compatible with DOT. Same as the Akron team, I'm going to recommend equipping him with Trend of the Universal Market just to add more DOT effects onto the debuffs. His personal damage too is also a nice contribution to both DOT and Akron comps, since he, out of most sustained units, deals decent damage. If you found this guide helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to keep up with my future guides and analysis videos. Aventurine is a fantastic unit worth pulling for. If you don't have any sustained units, then he's going to be perfect on your account. Or are you saving for future units like Fugue and Sunday? Either way, I wish you the best of luck on your pulls. With that being said, I'll see you in a bit.